Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Ritter, and I'm an economist with the LAEDC. Thank you. The organization that produced the report for Otis College of Art and Design. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm going to be using my time with you to highlight some of the results from the Otis report. My remarks will closely align with Bruce's, although I'll be providing a little bit more detail. Now, to begin, I think it is important that we understand that here in California, we have recognized that innovation is what powers long-run economic growth and is key to increasing the standards of living for California's residents and their incomes. Now, we lead the nation in the number of patents issued per 100,000 people, nearly 106 compared to 36 for the rest of the nation. We also are the leading state for total R&D spending, third on a per capita basis. And last year, California received more venture capital funding than all other states combined, about 58% of the total. So for California to hold on to its competitive edge, it is absolutely essential we continue to invest in our innovation economy, in basic and applied research, and developing our human capital. And at the heart of innovation lies creativity. Creativity is the foundation for invention, and it is the lifeblood of a growing and prosperous economy. All right. So creativity is one of California's foremost economic assets and has undeniably played an important role in California's economic success story. So what is the creative economy? Well, we've identified three major components. First, the creative economy is composed of the businesses and individuals involved in producing cultural, artistic, and design goods and services. It consists of creative professionals and the enterprises that take original ideas and transform them into beautiful and useful goods. This means the creative economy, as we define it, goes beyond what we typically think of as the arts. Here we're talking about all kinds of design as well, in many cases, as manufacturing and distribution activities. Now, the creative economy also includes organizations that provide a venue for artists to share their work with the public, such as museums, art galleries, and theaters. And then finally, the creative economy includes the support system that teaches, nurtures, and sustains creative activity, such as arts programs in K through 12 schools, post-secondary arts institutions to develop talent, and philanthropic foundations and other nonprofit organizations that provide financial resources, incentives, and services to the arts. Now, here you have a list of the industries that we define as making up the creative economy. This list will vary from place to place, from researcher to researcher, but there is a developing or growing body of research both here in the United States and globally that is coalescing around this group of industries. And I want to emphasize again that while the arts play a large and important role in the creative economy, we're actually casting a much wider net by including wholesale, retail, and manufacturing activities in addition to design work. So Bruce touched on this, but in 2014, California had almost 723,000 wage and salary workers in the creative industries, the largest number of any state. New York came in second with almost 465,000, followed by Texas with about 250,000. Now, creative employment as a share of total employment was a bit higher in New York, 6.2% versus 5.4% in California. So although California has the largest number of creative industry jobs, it is a little bit more concentrated in New York.
Are New York and California the two highest percentage-wise?
Yes.
Okay.
So here we're looking at the distribution of creative industry jobs in California. The largest employment counts, as you can see by looking at the pie chart, were in entertainment, 166,000, publishing and printing, 144, and then fashion, nearly 121,000 jobs. So together, these three industries accounted for 60% of total creative industry employment in California. Now, entertainment and fashion jobs are concentrated primarily in the Los Angeles region, while the share of publishing and printing jobs was much higher in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, because that particular industry group includes internet publishing. You'll also find digital media slightly higher in the Bay Area. Now, this chart shows job growth in the creative industries in between 2009 and 2014. And again, you can see the large employment shares that go to fashion, publishing and printing, and entertainment. Now, between 2009 and 2011, which you're picking up the effects of the recession in the early stages of the recovery, we saw employment decline by about 3%. But between 2011 and 2014, employment began to bounce back, and we saw an increase of 9.3% during that period. Now, employment in California's creative industries peaked in this cycle in 2007 at 767,000 jobs, so we've not recovered all of the jobs lost during the recession, and that's mainly because of the large manufacturing component that you find in toys, apparel, and furniture. Now, the strongest job growth is occurring in the service-providing segments of the creative economy, primarily design work and wholesaling, which actually mirrors wider trends that are going on in the rest of the national and state economy in regards to manufacturing versus service sector job growth. This shows direct labor income. So total direct labor income in the creative industries amounted to over $76 billion in 2014. The largest shares went to publishing and printing, entertainment, and digital media in this case. Now, to provide context, total private sector labor income in California in 2014 was about $790 billion. So the creative sector equated to about 9.6% of that total. Now, in addition to wage and salary jobs, which is what we've been discussing so far, there were 326,000 self-employed individuals in the creative industries, and this is a 2013 number, different data set, different timing. This comes from the IRS. Now, it's important to note that many of these individuals that are self-employed may also work on the payroll of an employer, so we need to avoid the temptation to add these 326,000 to those wage and salary jobs. They're simply not additive. You'd end up double counting in many cases. So most employment or most self-employment is concentrated in the visual and performing arts, over 47%, and in the communication arts, 26%, and those would be your graphic designers, photographers, and advertising professionals. Now, in the visual and performing arts, self-employment is actually more common than being on somebody's payroll. And unlike wage and salary jobs, after dipping briefly during the recession, creative self-employment has achieved new record highs every year since 2011. Now, up until this point, we have been talking about creative industry employment. And when we talk about industry employment, we're covering everybody from the receptionist on up to the CEO, whether or not a person is doing a creative job. And another way to look at the creative economy is to look at what people are actually doing. Okay, that is creative occupations. Now, people in creative occupations can be found throughout the economy, not just in the defined set of creative industries. For example, a graphic designer might be working for the Disney company or a media firm, but they could also be employed in a large law firm creating graphics to help a jury understand a complicated case. Now, in 2014, there were nearly 435,000 people in California working in a creative occupation, up by almost 5% over the previous year. Now, art, design, entertainment, and media was the largest occupational group, with a large share of those jobs concentrated in Los Angeles, while many of the computer and mathematical jobs, again, because these are tech-related, were found in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. Now, because creativity is a highly valued and recognized professional attribute, many of these occupations earn high wages. This is a selection of the creative occupations and their median annual salaries. These can be full or part-time positions. Now, I didn't choose these particular occupations because they all happen to pay a wage that's higher than the median average across all occupations in California. I actually added that as an afterthought, but 80 of the creative occupations we analyzed in this report, only 18 had a median wage less than the median across all industries. And then this chart demonstrates why we see relatively high wages in creative occupations. Almost half require a BA degree or higher, and then another 9% require at least an AA or some college. Now, it's also interesting to note that last year, the Los Angeles County Arts Commission analyzed the same data set along with us and found that in Los Angeles County, at least half of the creative sector jobs that did not require a BA or higher still paid a higher annual median wage greater than across all the occupations in Los Angeles County. So So with this chart, we're looking at what we call location quotients. And a location quotient is a way to measure the concentration of an occupation in California relative to the rest of the United States. Now, an LQ of 1 means the concentration is about the same here in California as elsewhere in the United States. Less than 1 means a smaller concentration. More than 1 means that occupation is more highly concentrated in California. High location quotients for a given occupation suggest that there's a competitive advantage to working in that occupation in California relative to the rest of the nation. So there's something that's causing those people to cluster here in California.
Excuse me, if I can ask a question on that. Are these calculated on a state level, these quotients?
Yes, we actually obtain them from the BLS and their occupational data set. They calculate them. We also have them available at the county level, which in the LA regional report we have listed.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay. So this chart shows the 10 highest location quotients for occupations in California. You'll note that 7 of them are creative occupations. And when you get down to looking at the Los Angeles, Orange County area, all 10 occupations with the highest LQs are creative, and they're very, very high. So in LA, they range from a 6.7 for producers and directors on up to a 12 for film and video editors. And those are extremely high ratios. All right, so far we've discussed the direct effects of the creative industries in terms of jobs and labor income, but that's not the whole story, as Bruce touched on. We also performed a contribution analysis in the report to measure how creative industry activity ripples throughout the rest of the economy, and the results were very substantial. All right, so starting with jobs, take a look at those numbers. We already mentioned about 723,000 direct jobs. Indirect and induced jobs were another 860,000 for a total employment effect of 1.6 million. Labor income direct was 76.1 billion. Indirect and induced added another 47, and then total labor income 123.5 billion. In terms of output, creative industry output was nearly 375 billion in 2014. The contribution to California's gross product through the value-added component of that was 217 billion, and that equated to 9.4% of California's $2.3 trillion economy. In addition, the creative industries generated through direct, induced, and indirect state and local taxes of $15.5 billion. So we're talking about pretty big numbers here. Now, to clarify what we mean by direct, indirect, and induced, when we're talking about this, what we mean is that, say there's a creative firm like an architectural firm. People that are employed for them, they are the direct workers in the creative economy. That firm will buy goods and services from vendors. That in turn supports jobs with those vendors. Those are your indirect jobs. When the creative industry, the architectural firm's workers get paid, they go out and spend their money at the grocery store, dry cleaners, going to the theater, whatnot. Those are the induced jobs that are created. So that's how we go from 722,000 jobs to 1.6 million. So we're saying that those 722,000 jobs support this additional economic activity in California. And those spread out from the creative industries to professional and business services, retail trade, accommodations, food services, and you can see on down the line there. So it's spread out throughout the economy. So to conclude, the creative industries in California, they make a significant contribution to economic growth and employment by fostering innovation and spillover effects that enhance other industries. The creative industries also help strengthen the state economy by attracting investment, tourism, and consumer spending, and by generating tax revenues. Now, as the U.S. continues to evolve from an industrial to a post-industrial society, activities rooted in creativity and culture are becoming increasingly essential to economic growth. And as Bruce also mentioned, new to this year's report is a regional analysis of California's creative economy that shows that these activities are not just limited to our large metropolitan areas, San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, but in fact, creativity is spread out all over California. So given the large presence of the creative industries in California, it's important that we ask how we can nurture, support, and grow the creative economy. So with that, I'll just say thank you.